Welcome to Wildly Unplugged, sharing stories of nature, conservation, and creativity. Discover what develops when you unplug and step outdoors. Peter, thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, it's really a pleasure, Lauren, and looking forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. I can't wait to talk all about your travels and photography, but I want to know where you start. What was your career before Peter started traveling the world and taking photographs and doing a podcast and all that stuff?
Okay. Yeah, before that, I was in Australia, based on the East Coast, and I had my own training and coaching business. So I've got more than 20 years coaching experience, and I was working with one-on-one people through to businesses and stuff like team building in organizations. So, yeah, that was me in Australia. And then, yeah, I traveled and around and ended up here in Germany where I met my wife. And from there, because there's about 44 countries in Europe, so the opportunities to travel and engage with different cultures are just more abundant here than it is in Australia, where you have to fly to somewhere like Singapore, like it might be an 8-hour flight from Brisbane, where I was close to where I was living, for a cultural experience, or Fiji, which is about, I think, I don't know, it might be a 4-hour flight, 5 hours. Here in Europe, like we're 2-hour drive to Prague. I'm based in Germany. It's a 2-hour drive to Prague. It's maybe 6 hours to Austria and just a few hours north to Denmark, 2 hours to Poland, for example. So the world is, yeah, interesting place to be.
Where I'm at, I'm a 2 hour drive from Louisville, Kentucky, or Indianapolis, Indiana. And it sounds a lot cooler hearing you say, oh, I'm 2 hours from Prague or Poland. That sounds
Yeah,
really
yeah. The US is it's a big place. It's like Australia. Yeah.
yeah. So was there a turning point, something that just was like, all right, I am done living in Australia and I want to travel more? What was that moment like for you when you decided you wanted to move?
Okay. That was, yeah, it was basically like a Eat, Pray, Love sequel, if you want to call it that way. Meaning I had been through like unfortunate divorce. I have 7 children, beautiful children, all adults now. But it was a rough time. And I had around about that time, the Eat, Pray, Love movie came out in the cinema. And I had a few friends saying, "Oh, you should go and see it, Peter. You'd probably relate to it." So here I am. I was in the back of the cinema looking around and thinking, "Oh gosh, this is looks like a chick flick or something," because there was about a half a dozen other women sitting by themselves, and yeah, and if you know the story, then yeah, she goes off traveling and wants to find herself, and it is that anyone who's been through that separation or divorce, it feels very much like you're redefining who am I now. Like
Yeah.
this one part of my life, there's a whole brand new chapter opening up. I haven't been single for 20 years. What does that even mean? And so, yeah, I thought I always enjoyed visiting India. And I thought I would go and spend a few weeks in India and just see what happens. And then I thought, why stop at India? Let's just go and visit every friend that I know in the world. And so
Wow.
that's how it ended up. And on that trip, I actually met my now wife, Annette, who's German. And that initiated the move. So a few years later, yeah, a year later, I was back in Germany to visit her again. And then 2 years later, I was married and had basically relocated here.
Wow. So it really is like an eat, pray, love situation. You should make your own male version so then guys can go to the
It,
theater and not look around and be like, oh, this is a chick
it was
because I did
similar.
read the book and I watched the movie too. It was a very impactful message behind that book. So I'm glad you
Mhm.
like pushed through. It still
Yeah,
meant something to you.
yeah.
So
And
travel.
I totally wasn't expecting the love part. I was thinking, let's just go and eat and pray and see what else happens.
Yeah,
So,
you just opened yourself up to adventures and love found you, huh?
yeah, I guess that's a good way of saying it.
Did all that travel and seeing other cultures, did that change your perspective on life?
Yeah, I lived in India like earlier in my life. So I was familiar with other cultures and spent a bit of time in Thailand also teaching English at one stage for a few months. But yeah, on that trip, I did visit a few countries that were not on the typical tourist list, like Iran and Kazakhstan and places like that, that did change my perspective of the world. And I guess the key thought would be there's a lot more friendly people out there in the world than you might imagine. If you're just focused in on like a tiny media bubble, they're just dealing with an inch of news from each place. And it's usually the worst thing that's happening at the
Mhm.
time. Yeah. So that can give you a unhealthy bias toward different countries when you're actually out there in the world in some of these places that aren't typically visited by tourists. And then you find out, look, everyone in the world's pretty much wants the same thing. They just want to live peaceful lives. They want the best for their children. They want love and happiness and everything that we do in our Western countries.
Beautiful. It's good to hear that those places aren't really as scary as like the news makes it out to be. And I think they just focus on
And
the bad.
they can, as you would know, there's parts of US you wouldn't walk alone at night, for example. I visited Philadelphia and that was just, it was like visiting a different planet. I had never seen people. I estimated 10% of everyone on the streets, on any street, was like just walking around like a zombie.
Mhm.
Was really confronting. I had never seen that before. And that I was looking behind my back everywhere I went. Yeah. But
Yeah.
I never had any, no, nothing happened. But I was cautious. So there are places in the world like that. Mm.
Yeah. For sure. Now, was there a moment in your travels where you felt like you were completely disconnected from the modern world and connected with nature?
Yeah, many times like that. I was just thinking of a moment today that was just totally surreal, where I had actually taken my wife Annette to Australia, and I had never seen we have a big red rock that you might be familiar with called Uluru or Ayers Rock. It's right in the middle of Australia. It's just a big monolith, a big rock, red. It's spectacular. And when the afternoon sun hits it, bam, it just like lights up like this rich red color that is amazing. You can see some photos of it if you go to my website, which needs updating, but yeah, petersewell.com. You'll see that photo that I took of Uluru. But there was a moment there, there's the McDonald Ranges that are very close by. And there was the one morning where I went for a walk by myself and I got to this one part up in like the hills somewhere and it was just dead silence, like not even the sound of an insect, no wind. It was so surreal. It was just like wearing soundproof things and the voice in my sounds crazy, but the voices in my head were so loud, like meaning my thoughts were just booming around my head. And I think like a place like that could actually drive you crazy. Like it was just so surreal, just the absence of every sound possible except for the beat of my heart. But yeah, it was just so still. And I just, in that moment, I just was soaking it in. But then after a while, I just had to walk or make some noise because the silence was just making me crazy. That was just a freaky moment in nature that sticks out when you
That's
said,
really cool. I've never heard of that out in nature. Like I've heard of people doing like the sound deprivation tanks and stuff like that, where you can hear your heartbeat and like the padded rooms and everything. But to have that
yeah,
moment in nature, it sounds pretty neat, but also
yeah,
scary.
yeah, yeah. But it's the only time I've ever experienced that because, like out in nature, there's always some kind of rustling of a leaf or a twitting of a bird or, yeah, tweeting of a bird or something. Yeah.
So that is really cool. And you've also climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, is that right? I was peeping on
Yeah.
your website. And what was that like in photographing tigers in Nepal? What is there anything that stands out to you about those moments? Or if you had to pick which one to recreate right now, which one would you do?
Oh, wow. Tough question. Kilimanjaro was like a just recently last year, I climbed Machu Picchu, which was an amazing, it had been on my bucket list forever. And it was just such a special moment. And that was a strenuous hike that we did. I think it was 4 or 5 days hiking through the mountains of Peru. But Kilimanjaro, what makes it special for me was that previous year, I had been bitten by a tick and got Lyme disease.
Ooh.
I came up with a big red rash over my stomach area. And I was literally almost like as I would go down the stairs, I remember the one day where my legs just gave out of its strength and I almost fell down the stairs here in the apartment. And I thought, whoa, like something serious is happening here. And then the next day I went to the doctor and told her what happened and showed her the rash. And then she said, yeah, you have this, yeah, need to be on this medication. Later in that year, some friends messaged and said, look, there's a group of us from my hometown in Australia that were going to climb Kilimanjaro. And I thought, oh, that sounds amazing. But at that time, like I was only like 70% of my strength level. And I thought, gee, this sounds like a strenuous hike. And I'm nowhere near I've been lying in bed for 10 months or whatever in recovery. And so, anyhow, I got there like day one, and I was, if I had assessed my strength, I was feeling like about 80% of my normal energy level. And so I thought, look, I'm probably not going to make this, but let's see how far I get. It's a even though the timing was just completely wrong for me, like these moments don't come up too often throughout life where you get to do anything with a group of friends. And I knew everyone on the team. So that kind of made it like, okay, if this is going to happen, I've got to do it now. And I think by day four, I think I started to, there was a mental shift and I thought, I really could do this. Like, just if I focus on day to day. And so, yeah, by day seven, we had reached the peak and that kind of feeling like that I'd almost done the impossible what I thought was impossible in my head. And it can be a tough climb when you're dealing with the altitude and stuff. It's almost 6,000 meters high. So
Wow.
it's a fair altitude that you're addressing. That's what makes that time special. And then Nepal photographing the tigers, that was I don't know, you just see photos and in books and documentaries on TV, and to come literally face to face with the tiger, and you're just, it's a walking tour. So you're just sitting in the grass, and to be that close to a real live creature is just something special when it happens. And there was a lot of waiting around as
Mm.
well. Literally, you're photographing flies and beetles, like, and then yeah, then it just appeared across the river and right in front of us. I don't know how far away it was, but I don't know, 20, 30 meters from us. Yeah.
That is really cool. I think people
Yeah.
don't realize that about wildlife photography is, yeah, you're keeping yourself occupied. What's around me? Okay, you got some
Yeah.
little birds and insects, and then you get that big payoff, and it's such like an adrenaline
Yeah.
rush, and it's really cool. What changed your mind, and what got you into photography?
Actually, it was a friend of my father's when I was a teenager, really. So I was like, I don't know, maybe 18, and he was very much into birds. And I think when he invited us out to see these, we have these beautiful birds in the rainforest called noisy pitters. Just really colorful, like all of the different colors of the rainbow are on these birds. They have a nest on the ground, so they're very accessible. If you have a pair of binoculars, you can really observe and see what they're bringing to the chicks and things.
Oh,
And so, yeah, he invited my brother and I to go and, yeah, take us out into the forest and show us these birds. And I don't know, it's something, it just, his enthusiasm has dropped on us. And then we were like looking at everything that flew. And actually, I have one daughter, and at the moment, she's just moved to a new house, and it's surrounded by forest. And she's always asking me, "Oh, what's this bird, Dad?" And keeping a running list on her phone of what she's seen around the house and different things. And it's really exciting because I know that what that was like for me to see everything and identify it and look through books and stuff. And so, yeah, I had started with just a pair of binoculars and just an interest in nature and the world around that. I don't know, you just see the trees, but once you actually, that we were talking about, you have to have patience with nature and sometimes sit hours and just until something happens. And then, yeah, that grew. Dave, his name was, had a camera and was also photographing. And then, yeah, we got cameras as well. And it was just something that always stuck with me once I started photographing and capturing stuff in nature. It was just beautiful. And I think I won first prize in a wildlife competition, a local show. So that was special as well.
yeah. And
Yeah.
your photography is amazing. You sent me a picture of a sloth and a little is like emerald colored hummingbird. I mean, so tiny. It's an amazing photograph. So I'm definitely tagging your website on the podcast notes so people can go check out all your work. What is your favorite photograph that you've ever taken?
Oh, gee, that's a tough question. Yeah. Let's see. If it's wildlife, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the tiger one, just because the unexpected. You were out in the jungle, like out in there, like you can't see very far into the jungle and some parts. There's real live elephants, there's rhinos in there. They have an Asian rhino that was in the Bardia National Park where we were. There's tigers out there and whatever else there could be, like cobras and other types of snakes and stuff and spiders. Stuff's out there. And and it's a it's a new environment for you. If I go into the Australian bush, I'm aware what I'm going to see on any kind of day. Like you can still get surprised, but here I'm in Nepal. I haven't really read up any magazines or books, so I just know, look, there's a possibility of seeing rhinos, elephants, and tigers, some deers, and things like that. But yeah, it's just the unknown. Like you've got these things that can potentially be dangerous, and you're on foot, and you've got a wooden staff that basically they just said if something comes toward, just stick the staff in front of you.
Gandalf. Oh my God.
Yeah, like a wizard or something that you're gonna chase away whatever comes against you. But yeah, I don't know. There was one time I was in Nepal and yeah, it was scary. Like we were chased by an elephant and
Wow.
it was a scary event. Just there was a small group of us, I don't know, let's say 5 people in our little group. And then I think there might have been another group that was nearby with about 5 people. And it was just like every man for his life, just sprinting down this road. And you're just reaching the stage where you're thinking, shall I just jump into the bushes and just hope for the best? Or do I just keep going? And,
My
like,
gosh.
yeah, literally, it was probably the fastest I've ever run in my life at that moment.
Man. You had some motivation behind you.
I know. And there was the one girl, where was she from? I think she was from Argentina. And she was just freaked out by the whole encounter.
Oh my
And,
God.
and her boyfriend was with her. And he just ran straight past her.
I don't have to be the fastest. I just have to outrun you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just to say that relationship didn't last much longer.
it did not.
No, it didn't.
Oh,
And maybe it came back to that one moment where you betrayed me at my big moment of need.
yeah. Gosh. So was the elephant being territorial or?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it was. Might have just been there's no young babies or anything there. You could hear it might have been like the presence of tourists. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Weren't anywhere close to him. Yeah, we were kept at a close distance. And the guides knew what they were doing, but it was just like when they yelled out run, we just yeah,
You listen.
yeah.
Okay.
Hiding behind it was hiding behind this tree and the guide said run and in my head I just thought one last photo.
It sounds
and
like me.
and that kind of photo is special from that trip because I got a photo of him and then I was the last one to run, but I took off then.
That's
Yeah,
great. That would
fun
probably
memory.
be my favorite photo.
Yeah, and they probably dramatized it too. Maybe we weren't in much danger, but yeah, elephants don't speak our language. They have their own kind of agenda, and you don't stop to ask them if they're serious or not. But yeah,
No, they get the right of way, whatever they want.
yeah, that's the only kind of time I felt threatened by nature, and we're in their world. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know with bears here in America, there for different species of bear, there are different things that you're supposed to do. Like black bear, you're supposed to make yourself look big. But we were in downtown Gatlinburg in November, and we're waiting outside for our name to be called to get in the restaurant. And I see this black figure just walking down the sidewalk, and I'm thinking that doesn't look human out of my peripheral. And I look, and I'm like, bear, bear. And I just grab my mom and I'm moving her so that there's like something between us and the bear. But everybody started running. So like nobody did what they're supposed to be doing at the moment. And but the bears in Gatlinburg are getting pretty, they're not aggressive at all, but they are getting bold and they're going into stores and helping themselves to candy at the candy store. And they know, where to
Oh,
find easy food. So I
oh.
know that your goal is to see grizzly bears. How are you going to prepare for that?
Yeah, I've just always been fascinated. One of my Facebook friends is a real bear lover. And so every time of the year, like I think it's around August, when the bears are eating the salmon, they have these live internet feeds,
Oh,
like
cool.
views. So you can jump on this website and watch the bears live, like eating and catching the salmon. And so every year he puts up the link and saying, "Oh, it's that time of the year again." And so ever since I've seen that, I've thought, "Wow, I'd love to see that in person." And I'm guessing they run tours or something, and kind
Oh,
of, I guess it's safe because other people do it.
yeah.
Yeah,
So do you have a plan when you're going to do that?
not yet, but
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it could be this year.
you totally
I,
should.
I should. Yeah, I need to put it on my calendar.
Yeah, for sure.
That's one of my big wildlife goals, like that I haven't done yet. Yeah. Is the
You,
grizzly.
the grizzlies. Do you have any other like bucket list animals that you want to see?
I wouldn't. I would love to do a trip eventually to Antarctica and see some of the wildlife down there. One of my friends, Australian friends, has just done it, and I think she saw about 7 different types of penguins
Wow.
and a number of different types of whales and seals, and the amount of different birds and variety of wildlife down there sounds amazing. It's a harsh environment, so it's, yeah, would feel special to be down there and capture any kind of nature down there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You brought up penguins, and that reminded me, you went to Boulder's Beach, didn't you?
I did.
How was
Yeah.
it? I used to work with African penguins when I worked at an aquarium, and they're my favorite species. What was it like to actually be at Boulder's Beach and to see them in the wild and run around the city and stuff?
Yeah, I love the penguins, and yeah, I don't know, just in some ways, like I guess the only other kind of bird that is similar would be the puffins.
Hmm.
There, I found photographing the puffins and the penguins were similar, even though the puffins are flying in as well, but they nest in the ground and penguins nest on top of the ground. I don't know, they look a little bit similar to me, but
Yeah.
I enjoyed both of those experiences. I was with my son at the time, one of my sons, Daniel, who was, yeah, we were traveling around Africa together. Yeah, it was a good time. And I'd been, just a little bit of the backstory was I'd been mugged just a few days before, pretty
No.
brutally. So it was a bit of an escape and almost a therapy day to be there in nature and among the penguins. Yeah, it took me about that. I was strangled with my neck, passed out on the ground, and but lucky I survived it. And yeah, I lost my iPhone, but I didn't lose any of my camera gear, so that's a whole new story. But I'm currently writing a book about some of these travel experiences. So if you're interested in reading more about my story, I'm hoping to publish the book later this year. And in that book, you'll read how I made my escape and managed, because I had all my expensive camera gear in my backpack, and these two strong guys like basically attacking me. It's a pretty interesting story how I escaped.
Yeah, and thank God you're okay. Were you
Yeah.
at home or were you traveling when that happened?
So this is in Johannesburg. So Johannesburg I was, and we just arrived literally. I was been in South Africa less than 2 hours. when it happened.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, in the middle of the day, out in front of a police station. So
That is bold.
I have my list of travel things that I do for safety. Like I'm not walking around outside at night after at late hours. I'm not walking down kind of dark alleys by myself. So you have these kind of little things that you do. And South Africa just blew that whole list away. I was not by myself. There was thousands of people there, and the locals are just scared of the gangs, and the gangs can get away with murder, literally drop a dead body in the market and run away, and the locals won't say anything to the police because they're afraid. And the police are working, unfortunately, they work with the gangs
Oh
because
wow.
the gangs will just pay them bribes and the police let them go. Yeah.
Wow, that is quite a story. I'm definitely gonna read that book. Oh my gosh. Because when I brought up
Yeah, so
Africa,
that's
it
why.
got kind of quiet, and I'm like, oh no, did I say something wrong?
No,
That totally makes sense now. It
yes.
traveled since.
So the same day, like I messaged my friend in Cape Town. I literally just got a local SIM card in my phone and text him and said, "Look, this is my local number, and see you in a few days." And then I messaged him back and said, "Look, change of number." So I messaged him on my son's phone and said, "Look, that SIM card was just I'd lost my phone and it just got mugged." And he rang me back straight away and said, "Look, so sorry to hear what you've been through. And look, if you want a quiet place to just chill and recover from that experience, jump on a plane and I'll pick you up tonight, this afternoon, or whatever." And so I did. We went straight down to Cape Town. And so, yeah. And then after a few days, then we were like, yeah, recovered and I was ready to explore and just tick off a bucket list to visit penguins was a special moment. So it was like a nice kind of experience to focus on. Yeah. Because what made it worse was like they used like a board to choke me with. And that damaged my vocal cords, so I could hardly talk for a few days. And every time I swallowed, it was painful. So it was continually triggering the memory every time I swallowed. And yeah, anyhow, it was nice to forget the previous few days and just focus on something nice like penguins. Yeah.
Man. And you seem to have a pretty good attitude about the experience, and you're turning it into something positive with a book and a story. And so you do lots of writing, but also you do lots of stuff with gratitude, right? I imagine that helps you get through things like that. Tell me a little bit about
Yes.
those gratitude journals.
Okay, yeah. So I've been keeping like a gratitude list for the last over 20 years now. And there's a an American writer called Ginny Ditzler who wrote a book called Best Year Yet. And in that book, she shares her 10 questions that set her up for New Year goals, basically. So those first three questions are: in the past 12 months, what have you achieved? What were the highlights of the previous year? And then the second question is, were there any disappointments? What were they? And so you've got like a list of highlights, a list of disappointments. And then the third question, looking back on both of those lists, what were the key lessons? So you might end up like with a dozen lessons looking back at what's happened. And so I was in this habit of doing it at the start or end of every year, just the first three questions, like as a reflection of the past before setting or moving forward into the new year with new goals. And yeah, that just became, and then I realized like 2010 when I went through the separation and which ultimately was a divorce. That year, like I had six life crises, like all at once in a 6 month period. So I lost my mum, marriage broke up, almost went like I lost a lot of money in a business deal that what I was cheated in. And then my dad had a cancer operation and had a third of his lungs removed. It just went on and on. And at the end of that year, when I went through that process, I saw that if I just looked at the first column, it had been my best year ever. And if you looked at the disappointments list, I realized, yeah, of course it had been my worst year ever. And I thought, how can you have your best and worst year ever at the same time, depending on what you focus on? And that
Yeah,
was a shift in my mind. And then I just thought, I need to keep like a running list and treat it like a gratitude journal. And so it became like something that instead of making a list or remembering, looking through photos and calendars and diaries or whatever, at the end of the year, it now became more of like at the end of every week or every month, I'd do that, go through photos, go through calendar, and any other things that I could think of to add through the list that were highlights. And yeah, like yesterday, I was in Berlin. I caught up with two really lovely people. Yeah. And yeah, now today, like we're having this beautiful conversation. I'm sure it is included on my list as well. So, and then when I'm having an off day, like I have all of these nice memories to look back to.
yeah,
Life is like that. It's not like a straight line or on an upward slope all the time. There's bumps along the road, and we need to keep a positive focus during moments of crisis. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, what you focus on certainly grows. Have you seen the TV show Severance by any chance or
I
heard
have no.
it?
Sounds interesting.
It's taking off. It's in its second season, but basically they've got a chip in their brain to make them forget about going to work. So they have their work life and their outside life. They don't know anything about each other. So like the person
Oh,
who works is always at work. It's
okay.
such a weird concept. And then they're diving into what if we could forget all the bad things?
Wow.
And it's if we forget all the bad things, then you don't have any innovation or growth, or you can't really focus on the really good things. Because as horrible and gosh as it is to get mugged, especially in the way that you did,
Yeah.
you got to then unplug and see those penguins, and it was probably more special to you to see
Yeah.
them. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. I would have, as painful as some of the, as that year was, especially that year 2010, I don't know, it added so much value to my life because I'd had a pretty cruisy life up until that stage. And just that year, like, I, after that year, I could really have a deeper level of empathy for people.
Mhm.
Like I just got it. Like, wow, that's what my friend's gone through. I had no idea. It just came to gave me a rich understanding of what other friends had been through. And I don't know, that kind of is irreplaceable, that irreplaceable wealth, that kind of, yeah. And I, like in saying that, experiences like that can crush people.
Mhm.
And I had known people in my friendship circle that lives were really, they were still bitter and like it had really scarred them. And the experiences of divorce, especially, like even 20 years later, they were just possessed by the hurt. And I just made a decision that will not be me. I'm going to do everything opposite to, to everyone else. So that was my goal, literally to do everything opposite to people that I saw that wasn't life wasn't working for. And I just thought, I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to be unforgiving. And not to say that people can't forgive, or but it's you've got to make it like anything in life. There's so many challenges that we're facing right now in our world, and you've got to just be literally like the metaphoric duck with the water just running off its back.
Yeah.
And little tools like keeping a gratitude journal are great for that. It just, yeah, it's like a layer of oil on your, just so that the darkness of this world just doesn't stick the same.
Man, we are, oh, wow, we are almost out of time. I could keep going. When your book comes out, I'd love to have you back on the show if you'd like to talk about
Yeah.
it again. Where can people find you so they can find the book that you've already written, which we didn't even get a chance
Yeah.
to talk about, and see your photographs and all that stuff?
Yeah, okay. So I've written a book called Hunting Susan, which is it's like written like a thriller, a fast action thriller, and I, because of the loss, grief, and loss that I'd experienced through that time, I basically channeled it into a thriller novel, and it's been getting good reviews. So if you love novels, you'll find that links on my website, petersewell.com. Or if you want to see some of my photography, I usually try to update my Instagram. So it's smileypete01. So that's on Instagram or on Facebook. You can probably track me down and follow me. So yeah, and if I'm doing a trip, I'll usually update the some of the photos on either Facebook or Instagram.
Perfect. And before we go, what tip do you have for someone that would like to reconnect with nature?
Yeah, I think you mentioned this like before we were starting to record, that nature's all around us. Like this morning, we're in kind of the start of March now, and already I can start to hear outside my window without even leaving the apartment. I can hear new birds starting to return, and you get the feeling, okay, something's happening out there. Spring is ringing its little bells there. So yeah, just sometimes whatever you're interested in, like you might be interested in just like for me as an Australian, what I find fascinating being here in Europe is just the changing of the seasons, number one. And in winter, like when it's usually gloomy and dark, I'm just fascinated by the shapes of branches because in Australia, I never saw that. Like in Australia, the trees have green leaves all year, so they don't drop. And our gum trees keep their leaves. So here in like things like that fascinate me. And for other people, it might be insects or flowers, birds, whatever it is, you can find it just outside your window often, and or take a walk through the park. Yeah.
That's really cool. I just noticed this week I'm hearing different birds in the morning too. So like two different parts of the world entering.
Yeah.
We got the same kind of phonology going on and signs that new
Yes.
coming. So that's pretty cool. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Peter.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed our conversation, Lauren.
Thank you. And until next time, get outside and see what develops. Wildly Unplugged podcast is a production of Wild Development Studio. The views, opinions, and statements expressed by individuals during Wild Development Studio's productions do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Wild Development Studio or its affiliates. Participation in any activities, expeditions, or adventures discussed or promoted during our content may involve inherent risks. It is strongly advised that individuals conduct thorough research, seek professional guidance, and take all necessary precautions before engaging in such activities or venturing into wilderness areas. Wild Development Studio, its representatives, or employees shall not be held responsible for any injury, loss, damage, accident, or unforeseen incident that may occur as a result of participating in activities inspired by or discussed in our content. By choosing to engage with our content or act upon any information provided, individuals do so at their own risk and discretion.